All right. I think we can get started now. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is all about online sellers. We will look at what will change for online sellers under the PPWR, which new rules they need to be aware of, what obligations apply to them, and what this means in practice. Our speakers today are Tamina Zirke and Melanie Rustam. They are both part of Lentbell's international sales team, where they support companies based outside of Germany that place packaging and products on the German market. They work with these customers every day and know the challenges online sellers face very well. Because of their experience, they will guide you through today's topic and give you a clear overview of what is important. So without further ado, I will now hand over to Tamina and Melanie, and thank you for joining us one more time.
Thank you very much, Cassie. I will just try to share my screen, which you hopefully see right now. Does that work?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our PPWR webinar today, Key Changes for Online Sellers under PPWR. My name is Tamina, as Cassie already said, and we are diving right into the content for today's webinar. We will talk about key facts, PPWR, about new obligations for companies. We will give you a short timeline. What is happening when, and what do you need to be informed about? We will talk about significant obligations for online seller and marketplaces. We will give you an overview of sustainability and design requirements. And then, last but not least, the call to action, which is quite important for you to know what steps you need to take afterwards. What's really important as well is, for the key facts of PPWR, we will give you the latest information. But PPWR will be changing constantly. There will be quite a few delegated acts coming out, 30 delegated acts and implementing acts. You see a lot of information on this slide, but this is because PPWR, which stands for Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, is actually quite a vast law. It has a lot of pages. It has about 70 articles. So we will try to give you a brief information in a nutshell, but obviously there is no way that we can deliver all that information at once. So for you as online sellers, we try to kind of give you the short overview, but there will be probably more open questions afterwards. So feel free to contact us for more detailed information. This is a first idea of what this will bring to you in the near future. PPWR has about 188 recitals, which is the explanatory text at the beginning of the regulation. And it supports the interpretation of the law, but it is not legally binding. But at least it gives a little bit clearer insights. What's really important as well are the different roles, meaning, for instance, that you as an online seller are a supplier, you're a manufacturer, you're an importer, you might be a distributor or a producer, but we will give you more insights about that in a few slides. And what's also very important is that out of the PPWR, different obligations derive. For instance, technical obligations, but also administrative obligations, the EPR fees, for instance, and you might need to use an authorized representative for your services, but we will explain this in a little bit as well. We just said that we will tell you a little bit about the timeline. So Melanie, please go ahead and give us an overview. What's happening when?
Thank you very much, Tamina, and a very good morning to everyone. Let's have a quick recap, and let's start with February 11, 2025, where the regulation officially comes into force. The draft amendment of the German Packaging Act was now published in November, on November 17th. So companies have the chance to submit comments until December 5. And after that, this will be totally evaluated and a final law will be published soon. So whenever we do have any updates related to that, have a sum up for you, we are going to share that shortly. The same applies to the EU. We are hoping for guidelines, for clarification, for some answers everyone is actually waiting for. So we keep on checking it and sharing all details we might already have. From August onwards, the scale of the regulation will become very clear. We are talking about the implementation of 30 new regulations under PPWR by 2040. So let's actually have a look and let's start. Let's go a bit more deeper in the role of the different responsibilities. So we are going to have a look to the manufacturers. Who is the manufacturer? So everyone is actually clear about its responsibility, but is it really true? We are talking about a production of packaging. We have an option of packaged products or someone else who's making the production for me. So we are talking as well about brand owners, which is pretty important. Let's have a look to three very important points. Let's start in general with the assessment of packaging. Are you really checking whether you meet the requirements? A second very important part is creation of a declaration of conformity. This must be documented. We had a beautiful webinar last week where we got an overview about all the requirements. And the third part, which you have to set a focus on, is as well the documentation obligation of all evidence, which must be available and accessible when anyone is actually asking for it. As an example, an online retailer who has as well packaging produced by supplier, as I mentioned already before in the timeline, under their own name, is also considered a manufacturer. This can be always seen as well in different regulations, which have been already summarized in several articles. One of them is, for example, Article 5 to 12, which is setting a focus on the declaration of conformity. Second one is Article 24, which requires as well the minimization of packaging volume. Are you really using the full space of your packaging, or can you just reduce it as well? This will be a requirement, so you can already start on implementing that. Article 25 and Annex 5 informs of certain packaging formats which are not allowed at all. But we are coming to that point a bit later during the presentation. So it makes it very clear. It is not only a technical, it's as well a documentary responsibility, which you have to follow. So keep both sides in your mind as well. Tamina, let me ask you a question. Are there any exceptional cases we should be aware of in that case?
Definitely. We were talking about the role of the manufacturer, and you as online sellers could also have an e-commerce packaging for which you are not the manufacturer. This would be the case if you are not designing the e-commerce packaging produced. It would not be produced under your own name, but it would be produced by the packaging manufacturer. So it would be taken by the manufacturer off the shelf with no name on it. In this case, the packaging manufacturer would be the one who is in charge of the declaration of conformity of the packaging. So they count as manufacturer of the e-commerce packaging, for instance. But another special case, within the special case, if you have packaging tape, and for instance, Melanie, you design a packaging tape with your brand name Melanie Rustum on it, then it's definitely you who designed the packaging tape. So you would be the one having the manufacturer role. And then you would also need to have the obligations for the declaration of conformity, for instance. It is not defined yet, and that is quite tricky. If you put that packaging tape on your e-commerce box, which is non-labeled, but the packaging tape is labeled, then would you actually change the format of the unlabeled e-commerce packaging so much that you would be also considered to be the manufacturer of the e-commerce packaging as well then? And this is an open question which still needs to be clarified by the EU. So you need to bear with us for a few months probably, but this is showing how complex the whole system is and how a small change can also apply to bigger changes. So this is about the special case for manufacturers and the e-commerce packaging. We are still in the role of the manufacturer, and this little chart here gives you an overview of a lot of important tasks which will probably follow you for the next month and years. We will talk within this webinar a little bit more in detail about recyclability, about the minimum recycled content, and about packaging bans. But the other points on this chart are also quite important. For instance, if you look at labeling, it's very important to mention that there are quite a lot of new rules regarding labeling as well in the future. You need to mark the composition of the packaging on the packaging. You need to mark if there are substances of concern in it, which is probably not that important for the e-commerce packaging, but for the product packaging itself. There might be heavy metals in there. There might be PFAS in there. So this needs to be marked. Or actually, the heavy metals and the PFAS cannot be on the packaging. They would be quite forbidden, but you need to mark down there what is on the packaging or in the packaging. You need to mark also the contact details of the manufacturer and the importer on the packaging. And you need to, as Melanie already said, look at the minimization of the packaging. So you should not use more than 50% of the space for having empty spaces in that packaging. That is really important. And fillers, like those, like paper, for instance, also counts as empty space. So you need to have a look on this one as well. But as I said, all this icons here are really important for you. They are also, most of them are part of the Declaration of Conformity, and you will need to be sure that you will have the Declaration of Conformity in place, and you will need to look through your packaging if it's recyclable, if it's, for instance, having recycled content in it, but we will get to those points at a later stage. We are still defining the roles. So I would say, Melanie, please let us know about the producer, please.
Thank you very much. Let's have a look. I am a producer who's actually placing the first time the packaging or the packaged products and make it available on the or in the EU market. So what is my responsibility? I have a clear obligation, and this is my guideline. I first start with the registration in the respective country. Secondly, I have to participate in a system for a packaging disposal, like with a Pro. Reporting of your volumes. Most of you know that already. I come to that in a while. And for the payment of PPWR fees. So these are very important points you always have to keep in your mind. As an online seller, you can also be considered as a producer. I'm pretty sure most of you know that already. If you sell to a private or a professional end user, for example, in one or more EU countries, you have to know if you have your own representation in the country where sales take place, you actually do not need an authorized representative. If you don't have a representation appointed, an authorized representation is a requirement. So this is super important right now. But let's go ahead. Let's have a look as well in what you are already aware of, most of you. For example, if we have a look to the registration process, for example, in Germany, we do have the Central Agency for Packaging. Most of you know it as Lucid. You have to register all your data. In cooperation directly with a system participation like us as a Pro, as Landwehr. What is new? We are talking about reporting. Most of you do it. Some of you are getting a new responsibility. So this is an additional task you have to do. You have to report your volumes to the central agency and as well to your respective Pro, like us, for example. I mentioned, or we mentioned already before, the authorized representative. This is as well important and new as well. So this responsibility is a requirement. But Tamina, is there also as well an exception for this kind of case? Is there a special regulation whenever I have lower packaging volumes? I'm not a huge company.
There is. It depends a little bit, let's say, on the volumes you're bringing to market. We divide between 10 tons per year, less than 10 tons, and over 10 tons. And then what's really important is if you only bring one sold packaging or one packaged product on a market, you need to register for the EPR fees. That's really important. So it doesn't matter if there is no threshold anymore. For in the Netherlands, for instance, at the moment, there is a threshold of 50 tons of packaging. So this will not be the case anymore with PPWR. If we have sell only one package, you're already under the obligation. That's really important to know. But for producers who bring under 10 tons on the market, they will have a simplified reporting. Whereas producers who will bring over 10 tons on the market, there will be a granulated reporting. I will give you an example in just a few seconds, which is far more detailed than the simplified reporting. The simplified reporting looks a little bit like the one we are having right now in Germany, for instance. In regards to the declarations of conformity, this will be the case for all manufacturers. No matter how many packages or how many packaging you're bringing on the market, if you are a manufacturer, you will need to do a declaration of conformity, and you need to stick to the design and recycling obligations. And now there is a question mark still about the authorized representatives in the EU. If you are selling more than 10 tons of packaged products to any respective country, you will definitely need an authorized representative if you do not have an entity in the country you're selling to. If you sell under 10 tons, then we assume that you will need an authorized representative, but there are still question marks, and we will need to wait a little bit more for that answer if there is really an authorized representative required for packaging volume under 10 tons per year. Let's move on to the chart. So this is how the packaging reporting will look like. In the future, you see there are a lot more fractions than before. The plastic fraction is divided in a lot more detailed and granulated form. So this is the change. And the compound material is not in there anymore because it's actually so detailed that you don't need the compound material anymore. This harmonized format is actually expected to be established by the 12th of February 26. So we will need to wait a few more months, and then we will get the information about this granulated reporting format. Let's go back to the appointment of the EPR representative. Melanie?
Yes,
Tell
thank you
us
very
something
much.
about it, please.
Thank you. Yeah, let's have a look on the authorized representative. And we as Landball are actually supporting you with that as well. And we do offer this kind of service, but that again to a little bit later stage. So let's set a focus. The topic itself is centered. So who is actually affected? All manufacturers established in the EU who sell their packaged product directly to end consumers. Who are the end consumers? Only B2B? No, B2B and or B2C, business-wise. In other EU member states, yes, it is like that. What do they need to do actually? You must appoint an AR in each of these member states. As Tamina already mentioned, for Germany, it's quite clear already. So on 17th of November, as we already highlighted, it has been already shared that it's mandatory. If you are having a third country manufacturer, like for example in Asia, the UK or Switzerland, you are considered for that as well. Why is it so important? The service of an authorized representative is taking a lot of responsibility and is supporting you with all your obligations. and for compliance with packaging regulations as well in the respective country. This is particularly relevant for companies as well, like mentioned, with cross-border distribution. So the practical example, which most of you know maybe already, is a German manufacturer delivers directly to customers in France. They must appoint an authorized representative there. Otherwise, they're not allowed to distribute products in compliance with the law. So let's turn over as well to the next responsibility. Tamina, what about the distributor?
Yeah, let's talk about the distributor, another role within the PPWR. Also quite crucial today because we have a lot of online sellers in the audience, and a lot of you might be considered a distributor. For instance, if I'm an online seller based in Germany and purchase the product from a German company, and this could be I purchase it from the retailer or I purchase it from a brand owner and then resell it. I'm considered a distributor, and therefore I don't have any obligations. Why is that? Because I buy it from somebody who already has the role of the producer. The one I buy it from is the one who is initially distributing in their own member state. So they bear the EPR responsibility. What I do have is the duty of care. So I actually need to be sure that all the packaging I bring into the market as distributor is PPWR compliant. If not, there will be a sales ban and I'm not allowed to sell non-compliant packaging on the market. So this is the role of the distributor who offers packaging or packaged products to end customers, but who did not actually manufacture or import the packaging from any third country. That's the difference between distributor and producer. Let's move on. We still have another important role, especially for online sellers, which are the importers. Please, Melanie, go ahead.
We learned already that bringing packaging or packaged products from a third country into the EU shows that there is an obligation definitely necessary. So let's try to make it into small brackets. Let's start with the duty of care. The importer must ensure that the conformity assessment procedure has been carried out and that the technical documentation must be available. The documentation requirement from August 2028, information such as material composition and compostability must be as well available. Labeling obligation. Packaging must be correctly labeled, which includes your name, your brand, and contact details of the importer. No placing on the market in case of any doubt. This is very important. If there is uncertainty about compliance, the goods must not be placed on the market. So it's very important that there is a very good cooperation with the authorities. In case of non-compliance, the importer must cooperate with the national authorities. We summarized as well the update in yellow, so you can see that we got the update for Germany, which I already mentioned before. So this is the importer, but there's still one missing. So Tamina, what about the fulfillment service provider? Is there any responsibility?
Also quite important mentioning the fulfillment service provider, because a lot of online sellers might use the appointment of a fulfillment service provider who actually does the handling, the storage, the packaging, and the shipping of packaging or packaged products to consumers in the European Union. So he's actually appointed by producers to do this job, and therefore the producers still remain in the responsibility. So the extended producer responsibility, as the name says, still sticks to the producer, and he needs to bear the EPR fees as well to finance the collection and recycling of the packaging. So therefore, he also obviously needs to register and he needs to report his quantities he brings on the market. But the fulfillment provider needs to be sure that the producer he works for is actually registered in each EU country and where he sells packaging to and packaged products. And he needs to be sure that the reporting is done correctly. Also, the fulfillment service provider needs to be sure that the manufacturer of the packaged products also did the conformity assessment and labeled the packaging correctly. So these are all the obligations the fulfillment service provider has to actually comply with his duty of care. And this is something what is also really important, because otherwise he should not be handling the shipping of the packaging or packaged products to consumers in the European Union for a producer. So let's move away from the roles, but before we move away from the roles, we would like to give you a short overview of everything we just discussed. Please go ahead, Melanie.
Mm-hmm. So we had specific roles and set a focus on. We actually started with a producer. We had actually the manufacturer, then the producer. We had the distributor, importer, and fulfillment service provider. The obligation of producer and manufacturer. We were talking about the design requirement, the labeling, while producers are responsible for registration and EPR fees as well. We had a focus on obligations for distributors and importers. So we have the information and the return obligation requirement, while importers ensure compliance with EU packaging regulations. The responsibility of online marketplaces. They actually share the responsibility for compliance with the PPWR regarding packaging and a third-party logistics service. Coming to cross-border and e-commerce, shipping to other EU countries triggers the respective EPR obligation. So it might be a challenge, but we try to support as much as possible that it's very clear for you. Also for the smallest quantities, Tamina was already giving you an overview about the handling of this regulation of the thresholds. The fulfillment service providers share responsibilities. Attention, very important. Online marketplaces must verify the EPR compliance. Means actually the sellers in the national register and may offer to pay the EPR fees on behalf of the online sellers. This is quite important for you. Tamina, now it's time to have a look on the sustainability and design requirements. Would you mind giving us a brief idea about that?
Will do. At first, we already mentioned that recyclability is quite a crucial subject. You see a chart here, which actually points different years to you. So as of 2030 onwards, you will only be allowed to sell packaging to the EU if it's recyclable to a percentage of 30%. And this percentage goes actually up. So in 2038, you will need to have a packaged product, or the packaging needs to be recyclable up to 80%. Otherwise, you will not be able to sell this packaging. And this is why we stress this fact quite heavily, because this should be one of the first tasks that you find out if your e-commerce packaging, but obviously also the product packaging you bring on the market, is definitely recyclable to a certain degree. If you are selling medicine or medical devices, or maybe special product with which are having a sensitive contact, then definitely you have different rules, which will be looked over again in 2034. But for the majority of packaging, actually, these percentages count. So it's really important to analyze the recyclability of the product. Let's look at the minimum recycled content as well. That's what we call recyclates. So second material. not the primary material. And it is very, very crucial that you also bring this into your packaging, which is not that easy because you need to have access to this sort of secondary material. For instance, all plastic packaging should include 35% of recyclates until 2030. And this percentage is even going up to 65% in 2040. There's also some differences between the contact-sensitive PET, for instance, or other contact-sensitive PE or PP plastics, which only needs 10% of recyclates until 2030 and 25% until 2040. But still, the matter of recyclates or the insertion of recyclates is really, really important and crucial for you. What's also important are certain sales bans for a certain type of packaging, which Melanie will tell you right now.
Yes. There are two key points in time that are super important. So already banned since February 2025, we have plastic ships. So the ones which are used to protect actually unpacked goods during transport and handling. The second part is multi-pack plastic rings. They are commonly seen on beverage packs. Single-use plastic outer packaging is as well part of it. And last but not least, SUP, single portion packaging like coffee, sugar, or sauces intended for one-side consumption. Now let's look to the future. January 2030 is our target. Please keep in mind. SUP packaging for cosmetic, hygiene, toiletries, especially in the tourism and hospitality sector when intended for single bookings. What is the goal of all of this? Reducing unnecessary plastic and promoting, of course, reusable and sustainability solution. So that's the main focus on all. So you have to prepare actually, you have to adapt your packaging concepts accordingly to be compliant. But Amina, I think there's definitely another call to action.
There is, and we divided the call to action into 5 steps, so to say. So in the beginning of the webinar, we told you a lot of the different roles. And what's really important right now is that you clearly define your role in the packaging process. Are you a producer? Are you a manufacturer? Are you maybe getting your packaging from around the world, maybe from a third country? Are you being an importer? And each role actually carries out a specific obligation. So it's really important to define your role first and foremost. Then, if you're being a producer, and this also includes private label manufacturers, you definitely need to be aware that you have to do a declaration of conformity as of the 12th of August 26. Today is the 20th of November, so we still have some time ahead. But what's really important to know is for those declarations of conformity, you need a lot of data. So what you need to do is gather data from your suppliers, be on top of things. You have to know what is in the packaging you sell, and you have to document it, and you have to probably put it into a declaration of conformity, which is really important. We can help you with this as well, but we will tell you a little bit about our services in a few seconds. But as a producer and obviously as a manufacturer, you need to have these information on top of things. Check your recycling and material efficiency. This means that you need to get engaged with the packaging you sell. You need to know if it's recyclable, because what you have seen is that you will face is that you will confront a sales ban if the packaging is not recyclable. That's really important. You need to be sure that you look at the empty space. Don't go over a certain empty space, because otherwise you will not be able to sell the product either. And be sure that you bring recycled content into your packaging, which is also quite important to do. The digital labeling will be introduced, so there must be a QR code soon, which also provides a lot of material and disposal information. If you are thinking about a packaging look and feel change in the near future, that you would like to adapt the packaging, what you're currently using, we would definitely recommend to wait a little bit more until all the harmonization of the labeling is actually provided from PPWR side, from EU side. If not, it might be that you change the packaging right now and that you need to change it again in the very near future when all the delegated acts about labeling are actually published. So wait off with this one a little bit more. International registration and compliance, also a very important matter. If you're selling only one package to any EU country, you have to pay the EPR fees in that country where you're selling to. And if necessary, you also have to appoint the authorized representative. This is what we also informed you about at earlier slides. And therefore, it's very important that if you're selling online and if you're using or if you're selling across borders, it's really important to get familiarized with the registration and the compliance process also in other countries. And with this, I leave it up to Melanie to tell you about how we can help you from Landbell side.
Yes, sure. Tamina was talking about gathering information. One of the latest support we actually published is a cooperation with PuckIntelX. It's a digital tool where you have a chance as well to quickly, easily, and individually evaluate your packaging. It's not only about evaluating your packaging, it's as well a tailored overview accordingly to your requirements of your particular company. What is very important and has been asked by many of our customers is about the recyclability of the packaging. Yes, this tool can do that as well. So you have a lot of different service options in that digital format, which will give you a big benefit for your future. We already started to give live demos to our customers and we received an amazing feedback. Step by step, we are going to guide you through the whole data management, which can be as well downloaded in an Excel sheet. So you can just review whatever is required for you to have it changed or what is already in a super good condition, which is not required to have any amendment. Of course, we would love to support you with our service. We are offering a personalized service. Personal service means like you can call and reach us at any time, and you can as well book a personal consultation hour. If you give us an agenda or a guideline, like what you would like to set a focus on, we can just work on it and we can present it to you. We have a lot of different compliance services, which can be seen as well on one of our websites, which is called Click and Comply. So there you see exactly which options you can already select on from today onwards. Upon the request, we already mentioned, we are already taking over the role of authorized representative for you. And as this is a super important topic, have a look on that as well. Workshops for your team. Take your team with you. Don't take your ownership. Try to share responsibilities and tasks within your team. For that, we are as well offering workshops. We can do it digital, we can come to visit you, we can do it remotely. So again, we can just personalize it. If you want us to make or to have a look on your packaging or to analyze it, you can send us a sample before. If you would like to have additional PPWR support specifically tailored for your own company, we can do that as well. So as you maybe see, we actually don't want to inform you always. We just want to be with you. So we want to understand what is your requirement, where would you require support, and where can be there to support and to help you accordingly. If you have time, you can definitely visit our website and you can have a look on our latest sustainability report, where you can see already all the goals we achieved, all the success stories, and what is coming soon. So all the webinars are already placed on our website, so all has been recorded. So whenever you missed any of them, you can always have a look on that. Otherwise, feel free to contact us at any time. We are more than happy to answer your questions. We can have a call. We are delegating this as well without our team, our experts, to find the right contact person for you. And that's one of the key points. We would like you to actually explore our personalized service and would like to adjust that accordingly. So here you have already our contacts. But definitely we are going to share the same with our other experts. And now, finally, we are more than happy and open to answer additional questions you might have. So let me quickly have a look. Tamina, I have already the first question. Do we have to share the technical documentation with our dropshipping partners?
You surely will do. Dropshipping is quite an interesting matter because it's always quite confusing who is the dropshipper and who is the one using the dropshipping services. So for the person who just asked this question, I would be happy to go on this dialogue again and would actually like to analyze who is using which services and who is the dropshipper and who is the dropshipper sender. And then we would definitely like to clarify the open questions attached to that. But yes, the one who has the responsibility over the products definitely needs to have the technical documentation at stake, and then they need to forward the documentation to the respective partners. That's definitely important.
Thank you. Is there a template for DOC for packaging required from 12th of August 2026?
There is not yet a template published. You do find different declarations of conformity examples in the internet, but there's not a lot of them yet. And we are currently working on the service to provide support with the declaration of conformity. So we can definitely help you with that within short time.
Okay, perfect. So we had actually only 2 questions. It might be super overwhelming, our presentation, but I'm pretty sure we were trying our best to be very detailed, and yeah, we are more than happy to support whenever required.
Absolutely. And it might be that questions will come along at a later stage. So Melanie already said where you can reach us, and happy to do so in the near future.
One last question I just got in. Okay. Which are the levels of HM PFAS admitted? PFAS admitted.
That is definitely a very detailed question, and I would also like to discuss that one at a later stage, because the PFAS are actually, this is going a little bit more in the chemical compliance, which is not, let's say, our first priority in packaging. But I'm definitely happy to discuss this at a deeper level. We also have part of our company is the H2 compliance, and there is a sector which is called chemical compliance, and they do know a lot about PFAS. So we are happy about extending this information at a later stage at an individual request. So please feel free to reach out.
Perfect. I think that's it for the time being.
Right. Well, then thank you so much, Tamina and Melanie, for the fascinating webinar. I hope we were able to clarify some of your questions and give you a better idea of what changes will be coming towards you as an online seller. This will definitely not be the only webinar we host on the topic of PPWR, so if you'd like to stay up to date, feel free to subscribe to our Compass newsletter. You will receive the link in your follow-up email. In that email, you will also find the recording of today's webinar. So just in case you missed anything, you could always rewatch it there. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much.